once you have started to build out your case studies and you've kind of got a much more sort of solid understanding of your own approach to the markets, and you've refined your trading plan a little bit more, forward testing is kind of the next real stage that you can go on to. And to be honest, it's pretty similar to case studies, but essentially all we are doing, or at least in the way that I kind of view forward testing, I mean, it's not strictly forward testing, but I kind of classify it under that same umbrella. But essentially what we're doing is daily markups or weekly markups, potentially if you're kind of a longer term swing trader. But even more simple terms, all we're doing is every single day, you are then looking back through that day's price action, and you're essentially making a case study of that, that full day. So, if you trade the London and the New York session, you would essentially go back through both of those sessions, or maybe you only trade one of those sessions, and obviously, you'll just study that one session, right? And you'll go back through that, and you'll mark up all of the price action, and you'll look for the trades that meet, your current trade plan, and you essentially you just mark it up. You'll still do your full multi-time frame analysis. You'll start on the weekly and the daily, right? You'll draw your analysis on. Obviously, just draw on the 4-hour chart. Again, I would recommend saving another template for this, just for your markups or your forward testing, whatever you want to call it. On the 4-hour chart, let's say we were down here at the current time of recording, right? You would just mark on the relevant price action to this day. Then you drop down to the 15-minute chart, again following the same process for your medium term time frame. And then on the M1, this is where you would literally draw on every single kind of entry or high probability entry that was a part of your plan, annotating everything that kind of happened. And kind of what I would say here is, when you are first starting out, because this is essentially the process I've gone through and will continue to go through, is you literally you will almost annotate everything, and you will almost try and explain every price move. So explain, why did we reverse here, why did we pull back to this area here, and just kind of when you first start out, you'll almost have tons of annotations, again trying to understand the complexity behind kind of the why behind every price move. And then eventually, as you do this, week in, week out, and the months start to tick up, and you've collected loads of these daily markups, then eventually you won't need to do that. It won't be as beneficial, and that's kind of where you'll just be labeling 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 things, right? Or just kind of key things that maybe it's something new that you're starting to notice, a new piece of confluence or a new bit of price behavior, or maybe just something that you particularly need to work on. There's something you've been live trading that day, and then you come to the end of the day and you do your markup, and you notice something, or an issue you're having, or you're not quite, capitalizing on enough of a move, or maybe you're taking, a loss by getting in a little bit too early, or whatever those observations are. That's when you kind of just be writing kind of 1 or 2 key points on your chart. But definitely when you're first starting out, I would highly recommend, like for instance, if this was all of the London session, you would have quite a fair amount of analysis on here and annotations, and just studying that every single day. It's really the repetition. It's an exercise that you're going to do every single day and every single week, and you're letting your brain see those same things every single day, and you're just drilling it into your subconscious. And that's how you build that confidence, and you build that trust in your analysis, and you build that trust in your trade plan of literally seeing the same things play out nearly every single day, and usually multiple times in just one session alone. And it will really give you that abundance mindset as well, because if you do this properly, it will show you the insane amount of opportunity that there is every single month on just one pair alone, right? Let alone, when you're looking on the M1 chart, or you're looking at multiple pairs, you'll see that there are more than enough trades each week, high probability trades, and that will eventually help you to build that inherent patience, and it will stop you, feeling FOMO and all of the the bullshit mistakes that can come when we experience that, and when we think that this is the trade we need to take or whatever, and we rush into those shitty setups. So that's kind of essentially as simple as it really is. It's literally just a daily markup of that day's price action, obviously still building your multi-time frame analysis into it, and then you will record it in a slightly similar way. So I've built this slightly different kind of setup for your markup. So again, if you go back to your trading dashboards, it will be within the forward tests section here, and then within this markups page. Now, if you ever want to generate a completely fresh one, you can click that up here, and that will generate you a template of this. But this essentially is what this then looks like. So you can kind of use the toggle sections here if you've got multiple years worth of data, right, to do them, to kind of just separate them out like that and keep it a little bit clean. But for instance, let's say, you know, you're in whatever this year you are in, and you're in this month, and then you would just have a page for each week. I've pre-populated these 4, but obviously when you want a new one of these weeks, if you click this button up here, that will generate you a brand new weekly template that you can then drag into whatever month you are in, and then rename it to whatever you want it to be. So yeah, in this case, just looking at euro dollar, so I've just got it kind of set as EU, but you may want to do a separate page for each pair that you trade, or you may want to combine them, where essentially you would have, say, one line for EU here under Monday's recap, and then you can generate another line below this, where you put in another pair, maybe if you day trade another pair as well. So let's say today was Monday, and then I'm finishing up, right, and I'm doing my daily recap. I would then chuck in my daily and 4-hour screenshot in here. I don't have daily chart, I've just quickly thrown these in, but essentially you ideally want to have a daily one and a 4-hour one. Just zoom in on kind of the relevant price action. I haven't annotated this, but make sure you annotate it as well. And at least, you know, type up blah blah blah, like you're just a few key points here. Only needs to be literally 1 or 2 or 3 little key points. Doesn't need to be an essay. Obviously at the start, if essays help you really explaining the story, absolutely fine, but long term, you want to make, like all of the processes that I've spoken about, right, you want to make your work feel like play. So you want it to be almost enjoyable, not feel like a big fucking chore at the end of the day, right? You just want a quick little bullet point, you know, pro trend, blah, 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 coming into a demand level, whatever you need that makes most sense to you, just chuck that in there, just so when you can come back into it, you can have a quick glance and you know straight away what's going on. Then you have your medium term time frames, whether you use the M5 as well, right? You can chuck those in here, but at minimum, at least have one higher time frame, right, and one MTF. And then you have your 2 sessions here. So obviously, it goes without saying, hopefully, if you only trade New York or you only trade London, then you only need one here. Or, of course, I haven't put it in here, but if you trade Asia, then you can put you know, the Asian session in here, or you could even have all 3 if you are an absolute animal who does not sleep. So, for instance, London, right, you can put in a whole overview where you would zoom out and kind of have that big screenshot. Of course, you can open this up, right, and then you can zoom in on each potential entry that you were looking at, and so you can really see the detail of that entry, and then chuck these in here, and again, put your few little key points in there. You know, a bit of text above each one will be really beneficial. Now for that session, you can say put the total R that was available for your plan, for your rules. So let's say we put in, you know, there was 20 R there. Now again, remember that sign there means this is a formula row, so that will pre-populate for you depending on what you put in here for your R. So this formula, if you want to change it, at the moment, the way I've based this on, because it's for your testing, is I've kind of based it on you risking 0.5% per trade. And then the profit split, this is essentially, just as a little bit of motivation for you, this would be based if you had a 100 grand funded account or $100,000 account and you had the 80% profit split. It's just a little bit of motivation in here for you, just to kind of show you what's possible, okay? Just with 100 grand alone. So, for instance, if you were to capitalize on that full 20R, right, with 0.5% risk, that would be 10%, which would obviously be $10,000. But then with your 80% profit split, that would be £8,000 net profit, dollars to take home, right? If you want to change this, essentially the amount that you're risking on each trade, maybe you don't risk 0.5%, maybe you risk something different. Then if you go into the formula and you change the 0.5 to whatever you risk. So let's say that you risk 1%. If you just delete that and then put 1 and then don't press enter, but if you just press escape or you click out of it, that will then change it, okay? So it's important you don't press enter, because if you press enter, it messes up the formula. But if you just press escape, that will then be your 1% risk, which obviously means 20R would be 1, right? Or if you want to change that back to 0.5%, or maybe you do 0.25 or whatever, there's your 0.5, click out or press escape. And there you go. And then for the profit split, if you want to change the percentage of your profit split, maybe you don't have an 80%, maybe you have a 90, maybe you have a 70. The bit you want to change here is that 0.8 there, and change that to 9, okay? And there we go. And then I believe you have to change the 500 as well. So that would be if you have 0.5% risk, but let's say you have 1% risk, then change that to 1,000 and then click out. And then that will be your profit split, okay? Based, obviously, that would be on 1 as well, right? So that would be your 1% risk, which means 20%, and then that would be your 80% split then of that, okay? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back to 0.5%, so that goes back to 500, and then this here goes back to 0.5, okay? So just try and keep that simple if it's a little bit confusing. Now, what I should have said actually is if you are going to change these formulas to whatever way you want, where I would do it is in the actual template, okay? Because otherwise you're going to have to go into every single one and you're going to have to change the formula on every single row, okay? So if you change the formulas on Tuesday, on say any of these, it will do the whole row for you in one go. But then again, you'd have to do Wednesday itself manually. So if you do want to mess around with the formulas, then what I would do is delete all of these pre-populated ones here, go into the template, and if you click this button here, you can configure it. Sorry, not that one there. Sorry, yeah, it is that one there. Click that gear button, and then this is where the template is. And then if you go into there, then you can edit the template. If I just click on it, actually, that's how you get in. And this is your kind of template where then I would go in, but you are going to have to change each row in there, okay, if you do want to change the formulas. So yeah, it's probably easy if you just leave it alone, to be honest, but at least now you know how to do it if you wish to do so. So going back to the overall process, at the end of the day, right, do all your markups on your charts and then populate those into here with a little bit of text ideally as well, and then you can put in the available R, right? So in this case 20R, 0.5% risk, there's your 80% profit split. And again, you can do the same for New York. You know, let's say, I don't know, you got 4R or whatever, and there you go, that's what it would be. And that's kind of you done for Monday then. And then what you can do at the end of the week, obviously, as you fill these all out, is you can put in the total R, the total net profit, and then you can kind of populate your key lessons here, which is definitely something I would recommend you definitely do. And then what you can do is chuck in those key lessons, copy and paste them into here, and then you can have a massive collection. Now, you may want to organize that a little bit better, but just to give you a rough idea of where I'd kind of try and collate those key lessons into one place, so you are actually absorbing them and acting on them if those key lessons keep coming up again and again, and then build this out each week for the whole month, right? You could potentially even then find your kind of key monthly lessons, and then again for each month as you continue to go on. Now, this is something I still do every single day and probably will do for the rest of my trading career. It's extremely useful. It's not just what you do when you're first starting out. This is something that I would recommend you do, yeah, every single day. Look back through it at the end of the week. You know, if you're more of a long-term swing trader, maybe you'll need to do kind of your weekly recap and kind of just go through the higher time frames. Obviously, if you're not trading intraday time frames, but yeah, this is just a really, really good layout. And just kind of talking more practically about how you would do it as well. There's kind of two ways you could do this. You either do this on your main charts that you actually use for your live trading and your analysis. So every day when you're live trading, obviously, you know, if you're looking at the London session as price action is developing and you're marking up your charts as price action is printing like this, you can leave annotations, right, as it's all happening throughout the day. So then once you finish trading and you come to the end of the day and you have all of your analysis drawn on as you've been going along, and you have trades that potentially you've taken as well, and then trades that you didn't take but you're just using for your forward testing, right? You're just marking up. Let's say that you didn't take this trade here, right, coming into this demand zone, but you drew it up, right, and you just go, okay, I just want to observe it, I'm not going to take it. This essentially is how you are forward testing, and that's kind of what I mean by it. And that's why I classify markups as forward testing, is because you're not actually, you know, even executing it in a demo account or a live account. You're just kind of testing it to see how it plays out. Obviously, with all your analysis, you take the screenshot, you chuck it into your Notion for the end of the day, you do your quick write-up, and then what it does is it actually acts as a good way of you doing your forecast for the next day then, because obviously you're continuously painting that higher time frame story every single day, and you know, getting used to how the lower time frames have been playing out, and then you're ready for the next day to then do the exact same process. So you're constantly building that higher time frame narrative. And obviously you will have, you know, if you're marking out your charts, you will then have unmitigated areas that, like, say, this sweep zone down here, right, that you can then look to potentially trade from the following day there. So I think that's pretty much kind of everything I want to cover. I guess, no, sorry, the only other way I could say that you could potentially do your markup, so obviously the first way just described would be with your live charts as you were trading and you're annotating throughout the day or throughout the week if you're a swing trader. Then you don't have to redo it, right? You can just take the screenshots and then chuck it into Notion. Or what you may want to do is, when you get to the end of the day, is keep your live charts separate, create that new template for your markups, and that's where you would quickly go in and you would just draw on the relevant analysis on the higher time frames for today, and obviously your sessions for today. And let's say, you know, you had, I don't know, just going to randomly draw on some shitty analysis, right? You know, you had all this crap drawn on, right, and that was all part of your analysis for the day. Is you can if you hold down Control or Command, you can select all of them like that, or you can go down here in the bottom right hand corner. You see this button here that's called your objects tree, and this will be all the objects for the day. So you can see, you can either click here on the bottom one or the top one, right? If you hold down Shift and then click the top, that will select all of them. That's another way you can select all of the objects. And then you can either press that button there, which will group them, or you can right click and you can create a group of drawings, and then you can index your drawings for the day. So you might want to go, you know, October, week 1, in one chart, or maybe you do all the time frames together, right? And you can lock it all in, and then you've grouped it all like that. And then what you can do is you can hide it, right? So then what that means is as you do this every single day, you can keep your charts nice and clear when you're taking your screenshots. But then if you want to go back through, you'll have a whole index of folders here, and then you can quickly show those drawings back on if you wanted to dive back into it or whatever, and they're there, but then you can keep it nice and clean. So it's quite a useful way in which you can kind of organize your drawings and keep things out separate. So yeah, I do this process at the end of every single day. Highly recommend you do this. It will massively speed up your learning curve kind of once you've got that decent rough plan in place. And you can also obviously combine this with your journaling. You can include your live trades in here as well if you wanted to do so, but we are going to talk about that in a lot more depth in the next module, specifically on journaling. But at this stage, if you're just starting out, this is just great for testing. I'm making observations every single day, just studying price movements. There may be moves that don't actually give you a setup for your current plan, but that doesn't mean that you can't study it and start to keep noticing. If you keep noticing the same patterns and the same patterns, you may develop a new edge or a slight refinement on your current entry model. And then as you collect more and more data this way, right, every single day, that's how you slowly, right, improve and even develop new edges. And it's just another way of testing, right, rather than doing kind of the hardcore back testing or case studies and going back through long-term historical price data. This is where you're actually collecting data every single day, and it's a very natural process, because especially if you're just doing your analysis with your live trades every day and you're marking things as you go along, then you've done all the work. You don't have to then sit down that evening or that weekend and go do a big backtesting session, because you've been doing it every day anyway, and you're kind of killing two birds with one stone, right? If that makes sense, because you're doing the analysis anyway, so you may as well use that then to collect as your markups. See how you could have traded that day better, see how you could have managed better, see how you could have potentially avoided some losses. Make sure you don't only record the wins, keep an eye on the losses as well. If they are really, perfectly valid losses, they tick all of your criteria, you may want to collect that data as well, okay? Just so you're getting an accurate view of your edge. So yeah, I think that wraps everything up before I ramble on any longer. This is probably my personal favorite way of testing. I do think you do need to go through that process of building the case studies first before you need to kind of sense check your plan. And then once you get to this section, this is definitely my favorite way of testing, and just continuously making sure that I'm evolving with the market and growing my knowledge, and just looking for constant slight tweaks and potential improvements I can make, and just benefiting from that that psychological perspective as well, of seeing your plan play out every single day, getting that confidence and just feeling at one with the market, right? Trying to sound like Yoda here, but kind of getting that sixth sense, right? And that fourth stage of competence, that unconscious competent, right? Where you're unconsciously competent, trying to say there. Okay, so yeah, wrap that up there. If you guys build anything slightly better, a bit more interesting, or if you have a better idea, as always, please chuck it in the community. Or if you have any questions or need any help with the formulas or anything like that, don't hesitate to drop me a message. All right.